these hairs on your...
Oh, yeah. Well, I did use your comb right before this. So after quite the hectic hiatus, I am more than happy to welcome you all back to a brand new season of Let's Chat. So I thought it fitting to kind of kick off this brand new season with a fellow member of what I like to call the podcasting arts, Mr. Trey Bray, the founder and operator and the host and legit everything of the newest podcast series, Somerset Goings On. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I always like to talk to Eli, no problem.
I don't hear that often. Tell me about your podcast series more specifically.
Well, so the tagline is Somerset Goings On. Mm-hmm. Wonderful people that make Somerset great. So really, it's about exploring the connections within the community. People that you see everywhere. John Alexander, Summer Shock. But where exactly did they get to be who they are? What road did they take? What journey did they have? What experiences have they gotten in their life that make them unique, special, cool, wonderful people? So that's really what I wanted to set out to do, was to talk to them about what happened in their life to put them on the trajectory to where they are now. So that's pretty much Somerset Goings On in a nutshell, is just celebrating people's lives, interviewing them, talking, see what's going on.
Oh, love it. And what inspired you to kickstart this series?
I really couldn't point to any one specific thing. I worked with Summer Shock a lot at Flashback Theater, and it's just seeing people through the door, in and out, people you wouldn't think do theater, coming in and doing a show. Mm-hmm. And it's like, wow, that's interesting. I would have never pegged you as someone who does theater. And, just seeing so many people is like, well, you know what? I'm sure the interesting experiences that they've had in theater might translate to something enough. And then I was talking with Chris Harris, and we were just having like a 30-minute conversation about nothing really, and it inspired me to talk to more people. And like, wait, hold on, I could record this. People would love to hear about these personal experiences that these wonderful folks have. So why don't I do that, and why don't I put it in a podcast form? I started last year with Summer in, I want to say November. It had been a slow start getting things rolling. This year, I was thankful enough and very grateful and lucky in all the words to have a SPEDA grant, Somerset Plasky Economic Development Associate grant, and it got me a lot of really, really needed steps. Camera, better equipment, board, that kind of thing. That's pretty much where I am now. I'm happy and thankful that the wonderful people in Somerset believe in me enough to talk to me and give me some money to do stuff, so it's nice.
So you started this November of last year, so you've kind of had like a good girthy time to like get this going. So like, what has that experience been like?
It's been kind of hit or miss. Everyone who's ever started a business understands that there's going to be ups and downs, and with your first one starting, that's rough. I'd say it was decently well. The ideas came together. All right, I'm going to do interview style podcast. That's going to be the format. I'm going to do maybe 30 minutes or so, a block of talking to people. Target demographic, people in Somerset. Target audience, again, people in Somerset. A place to record it. I was using a studio over at Flashback, but certain things have happened with the property management to where that wasn't a thing I could do. Equipment, 2 microphones, a really good soundboard, a computer that has... I used Audacity since it was a free software at that time. Now I've upgraded to some paid software thanks to that grant. After I got the studio space and then didn't have it anymore, the ability to get it done sort of dried up. It was like, oh, I need to find people to interview at their office. That would be exactly what I need to do. And it was kind of awkward. But I did have a new guest, Misty Phillips, on. That podcast episode should have dropped last week or the week before, I can't remember. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing now is, interviewing people that have their own office spaces semi-regularly. So hopefully I can have some sort of schedule for the episodes. And hopefully, God willing for you lovely people, if I could get sponsors, advertising, etc., merchandise for the podcast, then I'd be able to pay for a studio space, get more interviews, and then do a lot more stuff here in Somerset.
And so just kind of dig more into your background. So like I've noticed you kind of have like a little draw to like audio related things because you've worked for the radio station, you've done soundboarding and sound design with flashbacks. So kind of detail like the interest and the responsibilities, what really that role is.
I would say that I've always been interested in sound. I like how I like to hear things, waterfalls, beach sounds, that kind of thing. And it really, I guess, crystallizes the experience of humanity, if that makes any sense to me. That, hearing something, you could visualize it. And, I've always loved music. My mom was a big inspiration with me all the time on the radio. Every single day, going to school, going to work, you should always have the radio on, playing stuff. And it's kind of weird. I was in band in middle school a long time ago, and I was really awful at it.
What'd you play?
I played the trombone. I was really bad at it because I couldn't read the music. And
Oh.
I realized, I could never read sheet music. And even Bill McNeil, who I was taking violin lessons from a couple years ago, could tell you my sheet music comprehension is bad. But that was really when I realized I don't read the music, I hear it. I want to play it by ear. And stuff and things happen. I didn't really do much with it until Summer Shock had seen me at the Flashback Cabaret in 2018, the 4th annual one, and she kind of voluntold me that I was going to be doing sound design. Because I had mentioned it as something, just, topic of conversation. And then that got me started with that. I realized how much I actually liked it. I liked the process. I liked getting in there and saying, oh, well, I could cut this maybe 7 milliseconds short, and that would make this sound flow better. Or if I remove that gap here, then that would make this conversation flow a little bit better. And then that's carried on through the years since I've been doing flashback sound design for about 5 years now. And I got the radio station job over at Somerset 106 in 2021 during a lot of COVID shutdown, and I was really thankful for that since there wasn't any crowds, there wasn't anything, so I could actually get started getting back to work. And it's pretty much the same thing, but a newer concept of, you have timing because it's live. You have to do these live things. You have to make sure that it goes out. You have to make sure that it's clear, the signal's nice. And then it added the element of live conversation with Take Two, with Amy Stroud and Rakaya Pryor, that I was, running the board, making sure that, they sounded well, moving the microphone, playing a sound cue, going to the transition to the radio station, that kind of thing. To where when I said, oh, I'm going to start a podcast, it was pretty easy to just slot that in because I'd already done so much of it. I already, it's not live, but it's recorded, so it's pretty much the same stuff that I needed to do for the Take Two show. And, editing it, pretty much similar stuff needed. So it's my genesis through sound design, I guess, it's been pretty nice.
Yeah, evidently. Well, what's your stance on video, though?
I love video. Whenever I get my own studio space, the podcast is going to shift to video format as well. We'll still have the audio only, but I am going to try to make it a video-based podcast. I think that adds a lot of humanity to the podcast.
Oh, definitely.
Just hearing people is one thing, but seeing people, their mouth move, what they're doing, even little micro expressions, have to go sip a cup of coffee, something. There's a lot of depth in life that's added by video, so I think that that's a necessary step forward for the podcast.
Oh, definitely. It really does add a lot of life. That's another reason I kind of do it. Like in this format, it's just I feel like you can have a lot more freedom with it. Honestly, with audio, you just have like the set thing. All you can really do and start like I'm not to undermine anything you're doing. It's definitely probably a hard job, but just like there's just a lot of more so cutting. Whereas video, there's a lot of placement and having to deal with things. Like just before this, I was messing with the lighting and. You still have sound and everything. It's a lot of elements mixed into it.
Well, I would say that getting video would be easier because all I'd need to do is sync up the audio to the video, and I don't really need to screw with the audio.
Yeah.
Because if I cut, if say I'm interviewing John Alexander and he makes a cough, and I cut that like I normally would with the audio, but I have the video, it's gonna make the timestamp worse. It's gonna throw off the timing. I'm going to have to resync it. It's going to look weird because he's going to cough 1 minute, but you're not going to hear it. Yeah. And then he's going to start talking and his mouth's not moving. So I'd say it's kind of more simple. But actually about the lighting, I love the technical aspects of every sort of production element. So lighting, sound, video. I think it's fun to set that stuff up and play with the different color balances, the different, set this light here, what does that do? I just like the process and in general, the whole technical aspect of making something work. I think once I get my own studio space and I set stuff, that's really going to be how it is. It's going to be a one-time setup, and then maybe I might move something around if I have like an advertisement banner or a neon sign, and then that pretty much be it.
Or like me and have a tan blanket right behind you.
I love a tan blanket. I actually really like it. It's subtle, it's nice, it doesn't contrast with any of our clothes. It's nice.
I guess that is fair. And like, look at that. What is with us and like kind of matching with the outfits going on there?
I was gonna wear my red flannel little over jacket, but I thought not because it was warming up today. So
it was. Well, I had to get up. It was freezing, and then it's flannel season, And for some reason, like kind of like a spidey sense, I was like, what if he shows up in a red flannel today? And it's like, that is something he would wear. I think I've seen him wear one. It's like, what are the odds he would do that?
It'd be yellow flannel, and then it could be the ketchup and mustard bros again.
Yes, the ketchup mustard bro. Speaking of bros, just a disclaimer, we are not actually brothers. Someone legit thought we were brothers. Huh? I will admit, you do look a little more like my brother and my own brother, admittedly, but...
That's hilarious.
Yeah, the hair a little bit, the glasses... I don't know what it is with people, like, they see two people with glasses, and it's like, oh, look, there's your twin.
Bad eyesight. That's a family trait, yeah.
100%. Or the stigma, it's like, oh, if you wear glasses, you're a nerd, Like, look, I figure... Maybe that could be model material, I don't know. But kind of backtracing now, you kind of answered this question for me, but like, what all do you see with the future of this series? And do you see yourself expanding to any other series? You've told me some ideas before.
Oh, yeah. So I'm an EMT right now. I work over in London in Laurel County Ambulance Incorporated. And when I hope that I'll have the time to expand. Where I see the series as itself goes, first off, it's going to be the video element. That's going to be a massive upgrade. Secondly, once we get enough sponsors, advertisings, maybe even looking to Patreon for patrons, we'll have a regular schedule of episodes. We'll have more name recognition, which means more advertising for the podcast itself. So that means more viewers, which means more people will be interested in coming on it. So et cetera, et cetera. Other stuff, I might do a more broad Kentucky podcast. There might be some traction with that.
Yeah.
Let me see if the governor's office would like that. I could pitch it, certainly. I could come to his communication secretary and say, hey, do this thing. It'd be interesting. There might also be like a food-based one. I thought that there's a lot of good restaurants here in South Central Kentucky. I'd love to talk to people. Plus, that might be a...
Plus, you get to eat.
Plus, I get to eat. That's true. It'll also give me an excuse to travel around. I'd love to see more of the state. I mean, I've seen a lot of it, but really, you've never seen enough of Kentucky. It's beautiful.
Oh, definitely. As
far as anything else goes, I guess, getting back to Somerset Goings On, the main big upgrade I'm looking forward to is merchandise. When I have like hats and t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, patches, stickers, keychains, etc. Just like, you stick something like Baxter's coffee stuff. How many cars do you see here in Somerset with Baxter's coffee bumper stickers? A lot. And I hope that once the podcast takes off well enough, that it'll be as ubiquitous for Somerset as Baxter's coffee. That is my sincere hope.
And then, speaking of which, how has the community taken to the podcast so far?
People who I've talked to really like it. I'm super grateful for the positive response I got on it. I talked to a couple people, I sent them the link and so forth, and they're like, they love it. It's wonderful. My friend Brittany, actually, who moved to Baltimore, says it's like a little slice of home on her computer. I know, that made me almost blush when she said that. I really, really appreciated her saying that. The community response has been really nice and really positive, and I'm really grateful for it.
As you should be. And so, final big, hard-hitting question here. What would you say, then, has been your favorite aspect of your podcast journey?
That's a tough one.
I'm thinking.
I would probably have to say hunting people down to get them to talk.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest, the best is headhunting people to get conversations out of them. There are people that I would think are interesting, so then I research them. I'm like, oh, wow, that is amazing. Then I have to write the questions down. I have to do some more research. I have to go talk to these people. Oh, what do they have to say? And then finally, when they get their butt in the seat, and I have all this this stuff written down, and I start reading them out, and they not only answer the question, but then they segue off to something else that's not unwelcome. It's like, oh wait, you're adding context for this?
Yeah.
What did you do afterwards? You went to the army? You did this? You worked for the government? What? You were a college professor? You owned a construction business? What? And it's kind of fun what you get out of people asking a question and then letting them just completely answer it with whatever they find satisfying. I have to say that's the best aspect, is the people of the podcast, really.
Oh, definitely, I can imagine. It's just such a good feeling when like you end up canning questions, because it's like you kind of do like the surface level stuff, but then you get to talking to someone and then they reveal that little piece of information, like you said, you didn't know prior, and then all of a sudden you just throw away the list and you're like, okay, tell me more about that. That's way more interesting than what I was going to talk about.
Yeah, that happens more than you think. That happens so often. I try to keep my questions, if that happens, in reserve. But if there's a really, really interesting tangent that this person's going on, I want to go with them. I want to hear about it. And I'm sure the listeners would too. Going back to Misty Phillips, we were talking over the break, because normally my podcast has like maybe 15, 20 minutes. It's a 30, 35-minute podcast thereabout. So we have one commercial break in between. Mm-hmm. And while me and Misty were talking over the break, she says that she was in the Army. And I'm like, what? You were in the Army? You were an MP after 9/11? What? Huh? But you're so nice and sweet. What? You were a military police? And then, so when we ran on back to the show, I have to include this. So I had her talk about that, and then that expanded into her first husband, her kid, her business, because she had started a business too. And just out of that one little question I had, she had this tangent that immediately added depth and life to her life, and that was something I immediately had to explore. So yeah, it's really the people that make up the show, as I'm sure would be the natural train of thought, but I guess there's more nuance to that than I would have first thought.
I can definitely imagine that. You get a lot more than what you bargained for, and that's a really good benefit of that. But with that said, I think I'm going to wrap up here with my good guest here and fellow podcaster, Mr. Trey Bray. So thank you again for joining, and the best of luck going forward with the Somerset Goings On.
I appreciate it, Eli. Thank you so much.
And hey, if you ever need, you can have this thing anytime.
If I need a brown and blue quilt backdrop, I'll certainly hit you up.
There you go. And if you need pins to hold it up with, I'm your guy. And that is a wrap.